Welcome to Highlight Kit, where football talk finally makes sense. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because, honestly, we've got a truly fascinating explainer for you. We're looking at one of the most sudden, counterintuitive, and, quite frankly, paradoxical shifts in modern sports history. We're talking about the rapidly changing global perception of Lionel Messi, somehow transitioned into a major public target for criticism. It's such a compelling narrative, and the breakdown we've put together will really clarify exactly how and why this wild shift happened. Let's get into it.
So why does the world suddenly want Messi to lose? It feels like a complete mystery, right? Just think back a few years. This was the guy almost everyone, completely regardless of their club affiliation, was collectively cheering for. You had literally millions of people globally who had absolutely no ties to his clubs or his national team, just desperately hoping to see him succeed. And yet, look at the landscape of football discussions, social media, and sports media today. You'll see a massive wave of intense backlash and scrutiny directed right at him. It's a total 180 of public sentiment. So what exactly happens here? How in the world did we get from universal adoration to a point where people actively want him to fail? To figure that out, we really need to understand the arguments people are making out loud versus the deeper psychological reality of what's actually happening on the pitch.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you ask people about this sudden wave of scrutiny, you generally hear a couple of everyday assumptions. We can just call these the surface theories. Basically, these are the immediate, reflexive explanations fans give when they're trying to justify why their perception has shifted so drastically.
Our source material breaks down the two main surface theories circulating right now. First up, you've got refereeing injustice. You hear a ton of chatter about penalty calls, free kicks, and this growing belief that questionable officiating has unfairly favored him in crucial matches. Second, well, others believe it's simply a matter of fan fatigue. When a player racks up multiple Ballon d'Or awards and domestic titles year after year after year, people just get tired of seeing the exact same person and the exact same team win over and over again. Now, it is absolutely crucial to note here, as we go through this explainer, we are definitely not taking sides. We aren't endorsing these viewpoints or trying to weigh in on whether any specific referees were right or wrong. No way. We're strictly highlighting the theories fans are citing on the surface. But to find the real underlying reason for this shift, we actually have to look back at the history.
To really understand this shift, we have to look at the massive emotional investment the world had in him. For years, Messi was actually football's favorite underdog on the international stage. Think back to 2014. There was that agonizing, absolutely heartbreaking World Cup defeat in extra time. A moment that felt incredibly cruel to millions watching. Then, moving post-2014, we see those devastating back-to-back Copa America final defeats, both decided by the razor-thin margins of penalty shootouts. Fans around the world watched these crushing moments and just desperately wanted to see him finally lift that international trophy. The immense weight of those repeated, agonizing disappointments, it built this powerful global narrative. He wasn't just a great player anymore. He was an underdog fighting against what seemed like a cursed destiny.
And then came the breakthrough, when he finally secured the Copa America and followed it up with that legendary 2022 World Cup run. The global reaction was just electric. It truly felt like the perfect ending. I mean, it was the ultimate fairy tale conclusion to a story defined by years of struggle and heartbreak. Millions poured into the streets of Buenos Aires, and fans worldwide collectively exhaled. The underdog had finally climbed the highest mountain and achieved his ultimate lifelong dream. The narrative was beautifully complete, or at least that's what everyone thought.
See, the perfect ending in 2022 was supposed to be exactly that, an ending. But the reality is, he didn't ride off into the sunset. He didn't just hang up his boots at the peak of the mountain. He kept on playing, and more importantly, he kept on winning titles. And as he pushed past that perceived fairy tale conclusion, public reaction drastically fractured. We went from that universally celebrated perfect ending to a completely different era, one defined by intense, unyielding scrutiny.
Instead of continued celebration, every single victory after that 2022 high mark was met with an ever-growing magnifying glass. Critics began dissecting absolutely every single moment of his matches. Every controversial foul, every penalty awarded, every tight offside call suddenly became ammunition. It was just another reason for critics to invalidate his ongoing success. The source data shows us that the narrative completely flipped. The global fan base stopped enjoying the magic and started engaging in this deep, intense, and often bitter dissection of his every move on the pitch. But why? Why this sudden desperate need to tear down the exact fairy tale that we all just spent a decade cheering for?
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy real reason behind the changing public perception. It comes down to a really harsh psychological truth. Football loves an underdog,
but it rarely loves a dominant champion. It really wasn't just about controversial refereeing or basic fatigue. It was a fundamental shift in his archetype. Our relationship with athletes is incredibly conditional. We love to watch the climb. We love the struggle, the heartbreak, the eventual redemption. But as sports fans, we are deeply uncomfortable with absolute unchallenged dominance.
Once he achieved his ultimate dream, the narrative fundamentally fractured. He was no longer the beloved underdog trying to conquer his demons. He instantly transformed into the dominant champion. Essentially, he became the obstacle. Think about it. Every tournament he wins now means another rising star misses out on their breakout moment. It means another nation's golden generation goes home completely empty-handed. It means rival fan bases, desperate for their own turn in the spotlight, have to watch the exact same person lift the trophy again. He is now the player standing in everyone else's way. And because of that simple, structural shift in the story of football, he went from being the world's favorite protagonist to the final boss that many desperately want to see beaten.
Which brings us to a question I really want you to take away and think about today. Why do we turn on our heroes once they achieve ultimate success? Through this explainer, we've visually mapped out exactly how a beloved underdog became a public target simply by winning too much and becoming the obstacle for everyone else. It's a fascinating reflection, not just on one player, but on how we as a global audience consume sports and treat our dominant champions. Take a second to really think about that next time you see a legend take the field. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.